For about 30 years, characters in video games have basically done two things. They either stand perfectly still, or they walk in a predictable little loop. Well, that's all about to change. I want you to imagine a virtual character that doesn't just see the game world, it sees your living room. It can tell when you're hesitating, and it actually adapts its behavior to you in real time. This isn't some far-off future stuff. It's happening right now. Let me show you how.
Really think about it. Every single non-player character, every NPC you've ever come across has been on a fixed path, right? They patrol the same hallway over and over. They stand behind a shop counter waiting for you to click on them. They're basically just digital puppets on a string that someone programmed years ago, and they have absolutely no idea that you or the world around them even exist.
Okay, now let's flip that entirely. Imagine an NPC that not only sees you, but it sees your actual couch, your coffee table, your bookshelf. It's using this new advanced AI to hold a real conversation with you that's aware of the space you're both in. It can read your hesitation just by tracking your eye movements, and it can change what it does based on the real layout of your room. And I'm telling you, this isn't science fiction anymore. It's really happening, and the whole revolution starts with how these virtual worlds get made in the first place.
Yeah, this whole thing kicks off with the creators. The very tools that developers use to build these worlds have been turned upside down. And it's all thanks to these new AI assistants that are, well, they're less like chatbots and a lot more like active members of the development team.
The core idea here has a name. It's called an agentic workflow. And look, we are not talking about an AI that just pops up and suggests a bit of code. No. This is an AI where a developer can state a high-level goal, and the AI literally goes into the game engine and does the work. It's like having a co-pilot with its own hands on the keyboard, building things right alongside you.
So what does that actually look like? Well, at the Game Developers Conference this year, we saw these wild demos where a developer could just type a prompt in plain English, just like this one. No super complex code needed, just a clear, creative idea.
And here's the part that is just so incredible. The AI doesn't just spit out a text file with a script, it actually sets up the entire virtual scene. It adds the 3D models for your virtual hands, it writes all the specific code, and then, and this is the absolute game changer, it can test its own work, find the bugs, and then fix them itself. It iterates on the problem just like a human developer would. It's wild.
The impact of this is just massive. A tiny two-person indie team can now prototype and build ideas that just a couple of years ago would have required a whole engineering department. You could have an artist or a designer with a brilliant idea, and they can create a working demo without ever having to write a single line of code. The whole focus of making things shifts away from technical grunt work and towards pure, unfiltered creative vision.
So, okay, these super powerful new tools are changing how virtual worlds get built. But what does that actually mean for you, the person playing the game? How does something like an agentic workflow translate into an experience that feels totally new? Let's dive into that.
The piece of tech that makes this all possible is something called SpatiaLLM. Now, what this is an AI framework that gives virtual characters a genuine understanding of 3D space. They aren't just following dots on a digital map anymore. They are actively processing the geometry of your physical room. They get that a chair is something you can sit on, that a table is a surface for objects, and they even understand social ideas like, not standing awkwardly close to you.
And check this out. When researchers put this framework to the test, they found that SpatiaLLM had an error rate of just 8.6% when it came to placing objects logically inside a real-world room scan. Now, you might be thinking, is that good? Well, the previous system's error rate was a whopping 65.2%. That is the massive difference between an AI that feels intelligent and one that just feels broken.
So here's the real leap. We're moving from scripted, predictable logic to truly reactive intelligence. An old NPC would just clip right through your coffee table. But a new AI agent, it'll walk around it and maybe even make a comment about it. An old NPC has a list of pre-written lines it cycles through. A new agent can actually pick up on your hesitation and react to it in the moment.
And how do they do that? Well, they're watching you. These systems can analyze your gaze to see what you're interested in. They can track your head movements to see if you're agreeing or confused. And they can even measure tiny changes in your pupil dilation to guess at your emotional state. And with face tracking coming to more and more headsets, that data is about to get so much richer.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds amazing, but it also sounds crazy expensive, right? Well, that's where this story takes another really surprising turn. This whole AI revolution isn't just about making VR better. It's about making it radically cheaper and faster to create.
Get this. According to analyses of industry workflows, using these generative AI tools for 3D content can slash the time it takes for initial asset creation by 70 to 90%. I mean, tasks that used to take artists days or even weeks can now be knocked out in a matter of minutes.
And this table just perfectly illustrates that economic shift. Just look at this. To get a human artist to create 100 simple props for your game world, you're looking at a cost of over $5,000. With generative AI, it's about 3 arrows. That isn't just a small improvement. It's a complete and total disruption of the old way of doing things.
And hey, this isn't just theoretical. This is a direct quote from a professional developer, Jan Hammer, who works on this stuff for a living. He's confirming that the economics have just been completely rewritten. He can create more for his clients, he can do it faster, and for just a tiny fraction of the cost.
This speed boost carries through the entire development process. Research from NYU actually found that studios using these new AI-first workflows could get a working VR prototype built in about 18 days. The traditional method, almost 68 days. That's a 73% drop in the time it takes just to see if your new game idea is even fun to play.
So when you put all these pieces together, you've got the AI co-pilots for developers, you've got the spatially aware characters for players, and this total collapse in creation costs, you start to realize we are standing at the very beginning of a completely new chapter for virtual reality.
If you take away one thing from all this, let it be this. AI is not taking the human out of the loop. It is not replacing creativity. It's acting as a massive force multiplier for human creativity. It's automating all the boring, expensive, time-sucking parts of development so that creators can finally focus on the one thing that actually matters, their vision. And maybe the most mind-blowing part of this whole story is where all this heavy-duty processing is happening. Because of these new hyper-efficient chips, all of this complex AI stuff, the natural language conversations, the spatial awareness, the emotional recognition, it all runs locally on a standalone headset like a Quest 3. You don't need a $1,000 gaming PC. You don't need a fast internet connection to some server in the cloud. It just works.
So this leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future. As these AI characters become almost indistinguishable from real people and how smart and aware they are, what becomes more compelling to you? Would you rather spend your time in these rich, dynamic worlds filled with brilliant AI? Or does that authentic, sometimes messy, and unpredictable connection with another human being in multiplayer always come out on top? It's definitely something to think about.